I'll never forget the moment my phone buzzed, a notification lighting up the screen. It was a message from Alex, my husband of 10 years. What I read next shattered everything I thought I knew about our life together. I don't love you anymore. I want a divorce. From now on, all communication will go through my lawyer. That was it. No explanation, no apology. Just a cold, clinical message, delivered like a business transaction. At first, I thought it had to be a cruel joke. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen. Alex was supposed to be at work. There had been no signs, no warnings, no sleepless nights filled with fighting, no distant silences or slammed doors. We weren't perfect, sure, but I truly believed we were steady, strong. So why this? Why now? And why like this? I tried calling him. No answer. I texted back. Nothing. Confusion swelled into panic. Then rage. 10 years of marriage, and this was how he ended it? A text? Not even the courtesy to look me in the eye? I forced myself to breathe, to think. Maybe he was overwhelmed. Maybe he was going through something. But the wording of the message, the sudden radio silence, the immediate referral to his lawyer, it wasn't just cold. It felt calculated. Something wasn't right. So I called the number he'd included. The phone rang twice before a smooth, professional voice answered. "This is David Green. How can I help you?" I swallowed hard, trying to steady my voice. "David, it's Kelly. Alex just sent me a message saying he wants a divorce. You're his lawyer, right?" There was a pause. Too long. A hesitation that made my skin crawl. Then I heard him sigh, sharp and troubled. "Mrs. Carter," he said, and something in his tone shifted. There was tension now, unease. "Are you saying Alex has already sent the message?" My stomach dropped. Why was he asking me that? Shouldn't he already know? I don't know if he's filed anything yet," I said slowly. "All I got was the text. No paperwork, just the message, and that I should speak to you." Silence again. Then a sudden outburst on the other end of the line. "God damn it, Alex, you idiot!" David barked. Not at me, but clearly at someone nearby. I heard papers rustling, a chair scraping back. Something was definitely wrong. When he spoke again, his voice was low and urgent. "Kelly, listen to me very carefully. Have you signed anything? Any documents?" "No," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Just the text, nothing else." "Good. Don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything, and do not speak to Alex. Not yet." My heart was pounding in my ears. "What's going on?" I demanded. "Why are you yelling?" There was noise in the background, a door slamming, voices muffled and frantic. Then David came back on the line, voice tense and rapid. "I'm not supposed to tell you this," he said, "but your husband's been hiding things from you. Big things. If he finalizes the divorce before you learn the truth, he keeps everything." A chill ran through me. "What truth?" My voice cracked. "What is he hiding?" David sighed heavily. "I have to go. But listen, Alex made a mistake. If he sent that message before I could finish everything on his end, then you still have a chance. A chance to get what you're owed." "Owed?" I pressed. "David, what am I—" But the line went dead. I stared at my phone, disbelief flooding my chest. I'd called expecting legal formalities, maybe even a heartless explanation from a detached professional. What I got instead was panic. Secrets. Warnings. My marriage wasn't just falling apart. It was a setup. And now, I had to uncover the truth, before it was too late. I tightened my grip around the phone, David's last words echoing in my head. "Your husband has been keeping secrets from you. If he divorces you before you find out, he keeps everything." I looked at Alex's message again. It didn't read like a goodbye anymore. It read like a move in a game, a play in a larger plan. 10 years. 10 years of trust, laughter, vacations, holidays, silent understandings. All of it now felt like a facade. Like I'd been living next to a stranger. My instincts screamed at me to call him, to demand answers. But David had warned me. Don't talk to Alex. What I needed was information. I started pacing, heart thudding. My mind raced, combing through the past few months for anything, any red flag I'd brushed aside. Alex worked in finance, managing investments. He'd always been tight-lipped about money, but I'd chalked it up to work stress. Privacy. Had he been hiding something the whole time? I had to talk to someone who might know the truth. I scrolled through my contacts, hesitating over one name, Lisa. She'd worked as Alex's assistant for years, practically ran his entire office. We weren't exactly close, but she'd always been warm toward me. If anyone had seen the cracks before I did, it was her. I tapped call. The phone rang, once, twice, then she picked up. Kelly? Her voice was surprised, cautious. Hey, Lisa. Sorry for calling out of the blue. I tried to sound casual, but even I could hear the tension in my voice. Have you spoken to Alex today? A pause. Not really. Why? Is everything okay? I swallowed hard. He texted me this morning, said he wants a divorce, that from now on, all communication goes through his lawyer. There was a sharp inhale on her end. Oh. That was it. Just oh. Not shock, not confusion, just confirmation. You knew, I said quietly. Didn't you? Silence. Then finally, I had a feeling something wasn't right. He's been acting strange. My chest tightened. Strange how? Secretive, she admitted. Meetings that weren't on the calendar. Making large wire transfers to an account I'd never seen before. And then, last week? She trailed off. What? I pressed. Lisa, what happened last week? I overheard him on the phone with someone, she said. I didn't catch everything, but he said, once she signs, it's all mine. She won't even know what she lost. I stopped breathing. Once she signs, it's all mine. This wasn't just a sudden breakup. Alex wasn't leaving me. He was setting me up. I ended the call without another word and headed straight for his home office. He had moved most of his files online, but he still kept some things the old-fashioned way, in a locked drawer. One I happened to know the code to. I knelt down, heart thudding, and punched in the numbers. Click. The drawer slid open. Inside, neatly stacked folders, financial records, legal documents, statements. My fingers were trembling as I sifted through them. And then, I saw it. A bank statement, for an account I didn't recognize. Balance, $8.6 million. I blinked, stared again. No, it wasn't a mistake. It was real. $8.6 million. Under only Alex's name. Page after page, I flipped through the transactions. Wire transfers. Asset movements. Quiet, steady withdrawals from shared accounts over the course of more than a year. Disguised, redirected, hidden. My thoughts flashed back to David's panic on the phone. If he divorces you before you find out, he keeps everything. He thought I already knew, but I hadn't. Not until now. Now I understood the urgency, the shouting, the fear in David's voice. Alex had likely told him I'd been informed, that I'd agreed, that I'd gone quietly. He'd counted on my silence, my confusion, my trust. Except now, he had none of those things. I stared down at the documents in my shaking hands. My entire world had been manipulated behind my back. The marriage, the finances, the carefully timed message, it had all been orchestrated. But he hadn't planned on me finding the truth in time. Not anymore. I picked up my phone, not to call Alex. That part of my life was done. This time, I was calling David back, and he was going to tell me everything. A white-hot surge of rage coursed through me. It wasn't even about the money. It was the betrayal. We had built a life together, a marriage I believed in, and while I had been loving, supporting, showing up, Alex had been orchestrating his escape, quiet, calculated, cruel. I gritted my teeth, grabbed my phone, and hit redial. This time, I wasn't letting David dodge a single question. The phone barely rang once before he picked up. His voice was clipped. Kelly! David, I said, my tone like ice. You told me not to sign anything, not to speak to Alex. You panicked when I called, and now I know why. Silence. Then a heavy breath. You found it, didn't you? I clenched the phone tighter. The secret bank account? Oh, I found it. And I'm guessing there's more. So let's cut the crap, David. Start talking. Kelly, listen. No, I snapped. You listen. He tried to sneak out, leave me with nothing, and you knew. You stood by while he stabbed me in the back." David cursed under his breath. "Fine. You want the truth? Here it is. Alex has been prepping for this divorce for over a year, shifting assets, sending money offshore, creating legal blockades to keep you from touching a cent." My breath caught. "Why?" My voice cracked. "Why not just be honest?" "Because he thought you'd fight him," David said. "And if you fought, he knew you'd win." I swallowed the lump rising in my throat. "He knew I was entitled to half," I said, bitterness slicing through my words. "Let me guess. He planned to drag it out in court, wear me down until I settled for scraps." David was quiet for a beat. "That was the plan," he admitted. I clenched my jaw. "That bastard." "And it gets worse," David said grimly. "He was going to claim the entire fortune was his, that you had nothing to do with it, no right to any of it." My stomach turned. He was going to lie. He already has. I forced myself to breathe. "Stay sharp, Kelly." Alex thought he'd already won, that I'd crumble, sign, and disappear. But now, I had leverage. "David," I said slowly, "you're his lawyer. Why are you telling me this?" A dry, humorless chuckle came through the line. "Because your husband is an idiot." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "He doesn't listen," David continued. "I warned him, told him what he was doing was illegal, that if you found out, it would blow up in his face, but he thought he was untouchable, that you'd just cry for a week and sign the papers." He paused, then added, "I guess he forgot who he married." A smirk tugged at my lips. "That's where he made his biggest mistake." "Kelly," David said cautiously, "if you play your cards right, you could destroy him." My grip tightened. "I'm listening." "You've got something more powerful than cash," he said. "You've got proof, bank statements, transfers, hidden accounts. If this goes to court, the judge won't just see deception, he'll see fraud." I closed my eyes. Fraud. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a crime. I had come to terms with fighting for what was mine. But this changed everything. I wasn't just going to fight. I was going to bury him. I hung up the phone, adrenaline buzzing under my skin. David had confirmed it all. Alex had engineered this, moved money, built traps, lied. He had tried to erase me from our shared life, like I had never been there, but he didn't count on me finding out, and he definitely didn't count on me fighting back. I sat on the floor of his home office, hands trembling as I laid out the evidence, statements, transfers, accounts. $8.6 million. Hidden. Deliberate. Fraudulent. I couldn't let him catch wind of what I knew. Not yet. So I moved fast, snapping photos of every document, backing them up to my email, a secure cloud folder, and to Lisa. She'd tipped me off without knowing the full scope, but I trusted her. Just in case, I attached a message to the files. "Lisa, I need you to hold on to these. If anything happens to me or my access, send everything to David Green immediately." Her response came seconds later. "Kelly, what the hell is this? He was hiding this much money?" "Yep. And now I'm going to make sure he pays for it." A beat of silence. Then, "Whatever you need, I've got your back." I exhaled. Good, because this was war. I knew where he was staying, his company's penthouse downtown. He thought he'd bought himself time, that I'd be too stunned to act before the papers arrived. But he had underestimated me. Badly. I gathered the bank statements, stuffed them in my purse, and got in the car. My hands didn't shake anymore. They were steady, focused. When I reached the building, the doorman recognized me, let me in without a word. Alex had no idea what was coming. I stepped into the elevator, heart pounding, fists clenched. When I reached the penthouse door, I didn't knock. I used the key card he'd forgotten to take back. And the second I stepped inside, everything changed. I stepped into the penthouse and found him lounging on the couch, a glass of scotch in hand, legs casually crossed. He looked completely at ease, like he hadn't just tried to erase my life behind my back. When he noticed me, his relaxed expression twisted into annoyance. "Kelly?" he snapped, setting the glass down. "What the hell are you doing here?" I didn't respond. I walked straight up to the coffee table and dropped a thick stack of bank statements onto the surface. They landed with a satisfying slap. He glanced down, confused, then his eyes locked on the figures. The color drained from his face. "Where did you get these?" he asked, voice low. I crossed my arms. "You really thought I wouldn't find out?" He forced a laugh, but there was no confidence behind it. "Kelly, you don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly," I cut in. "I understand that while I was standing by you, loving you, building a life with you, you were funneling millions into a private account, under your name only. I understand that you planned to blindside me with a divorce and leave me with nothing, and I understand that you thought you'd get away with it." His jaw tightened. "This is none of your business." I let out a dry laugh. "None of my business? We're married, Alex. Legally, that means half of everything you own is mine." His eyes darkened. "Not if I prove that money was earned by me, alone." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "And how do you think a judge is going to react when they see these?" I tapped the statements. "Transfers made during our marriage, accounts you hid, funds you were legally required to disclose." His face twisted with rage. "You don't have proof that I do have proof," I interrupted. "And more importantly—" I let the smile creep across my face. "I have David." He froze. Fear flickered behind his eyes for the first time. "David wouldn't—" "Oh, but he did." I smiled. "Your own lawyer told me everything. The offshore accounts, the plan to drag this out in court, the lie you were going to sell to the judge. All of it." Alex's hands curled into fists. "That idiot." "He knows you crossed a line," I said coolly, "and he knows I have every right to what you tried to hide." He stared at me, saying nothing. Then his lips curled into a sneer. "You think you've won?" he said, voice low, dangerous. "This isn't over, Kelly." I picked up the folder and stepped toward the door. "You're right," I said. "It's just getting started." And with that, I turned and walked out, leaving him to drown in the wreckage he created. Alex thought intimidation would work. He thought a sharp tone, a cold stare, and a veiled threat would send me running. But what he didn't realize was that I wasn't the same woman he had dismissed and underestimated all these years. This time, I was ready. The very next morning, I walked into David Green's office. He looked up from his desk, rubbing his temples as if he'd been waiting for me. "Kelly," he sighed, "I figured you'd be back." Without a word, I dropped the folder onto his desk, neatly packed, everything he needed. "You told me I could ruin him," I said, voice steady. "Let's make sure that happens." David opened the folder and began flipping through the contents. I watched his eyes scan the pages, his jaw tightening with every line he read. "You've been busy," he muttered. "I don't waste time." He shut the folder and sat back in his chair, hands steepled. "Let me be clear about what this means. Alex isn't just looking at losing money. We're talking fraud charges." I nodded once. "And?" "And if we take this to court," David continued, "you'll get more than just half. The judge will see how he tried to hide assets, and that means penalties, damages, maybe even jail time if it sticks." I smiled, slow and deliberate. "Good." David studied me for a moment. "He's desperate, Kelly. He won't go down without a fight." I leaned forward. "Neither will I." That afternoon, we filed the motion, not just for divorce, but for financial fraud, misconduct, and intentional deception. It didn't take long for Alex to find out. My phone rang. An unknown number. I answered. "You're insane!" Alex's voice exploded through the line. "You went to the court? Are you out of your goddamn mind?" I smirked, calm as ever. "Hi, honey. Miss me?" I leaned back in my chair, calm and composed. "I figured," I said coolly, "since you wanted everything to go through lawyers, I'd make it official." His breath came in short, ragged bursts, like he was trying not to unravel. "You have no idea what you're doing," he hissed. "Oh, I know exactly what I'm doing," I replied, voice like steel. "I'm taking what's mine." There was a beat of silence. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed. A hollow, bitter sound. "You think you've won," he said. "You think this is a game." I tilted my head slightly. "No, Alex, this isn't a game. It's justice. And you? You played yourself." 2 weeks later, we were in court. Alex had managed to hire a new lawyer, some slick, overconfident type who walked in with the swagger of someone who thought this would be easy. He was wrong. When the judge reviewed the evidence, the transfers, the undisclosed accounts, the timeline, his entire demeanor changed. "Mr. Carter," the judge said sternly, eyes narrowing, "would you like to explain why you failed to disclose these assets in your filing?" Alex shifted in his seat, clearly rattled. "Those funds they were from before the marriage," he stammered. David stood without missing a beat. "Your Honor, the transfers began a year ago. Well, within the time frame of the marriage, which makes them joint assets. My client is entitled to half." The judge nodded gravely. I glanced sideways at Alex. His face was pale, his jaw clenched so tight I half expected it to crack. He was losing, and he knew it. Then David delivered the final blow. "Your Honor," he said, "given the clear attempt to conceal assets, we are also requesting punitive damages for financial misconduct and intentional deception." Alex's lawyer sprang to his feet. "Objection? Denied," the judge said sharply. He turned back to Alex. "Given the evidence, I am inclined to rule in favor of Mrs. Carter. She will receive half of all marital assets, and due to the attempted fraud, she is entitled to an additional financial settlement." Alex's fists clenched on the table. Mine were steady. The gavel came down. I had won. As the courtroom emptied, I gathered my things. The air felt different, lighter. But just as I reached the hallway, I heard hurried footsteps behind me. "Kelly!" I turned. Alex stood there, disheveled, hollow-eyed. The confident smirk he used to wear like armor was gone. "Don't do this," he murmured. "You already got what you wanted." I studied him for a long moment. Then I stepped closer and leaned in. "No, Alex," I whispered. "You got what you deserved." His face twisted, but I was already walking away. This time, for good. The aftermath? Spectacular. Word of the court ruling spread fast. And in Alex's world, finance, reputation, investors, losing meant blood in the water. His business took a nosedive. Investors backed out. Clients stopped calling. Without the hidden funds, without the empire he'd quietly built behind my back, he was finished. And then came the final nail in the coffin. He had to sell the penthouse, the same one where he'd once sat smug and untouchable. Gone. Lisa, still working at the firm, was the one who told me the rest. There'd been a mistress. Of course there had. She'd stuck around, waiting for the spoils, expecting the yacht, the champagne, the life. But when the money vanished, so did she. Blocked his number. Moved on to her next mark. Alex had thrown everything away for her. And in the end, he was left with nothing. Poetic justice. As for me, life had never been better. The settlement allowed me to buy a home, not a showpiece, not a penthouse, a place that actually felt like home. Warm, quiet, real. For the first time in years, I could breathe. No more walking on eggshells. No more second-guessing my worth. No more wondering if the man beside me was lying through his teeth. I had won. Not just the case, not just the money, myself. One quiet morning, I was on my porch sipping coffee when my phone buzzed. A text. Alex. For a long moment, I stared at the screen. Just his name. Just that. Curiosity prickled, but I didn't flinch. I opened it. Alex, can we talk? I stared at the message, the steam curling up from my mug, and I smiled. Because now I held the power. I let out a dry laugh. Talk? Now? Where was that energy when he ended our marriage with a text? Where was that need to communicate when he spent a year stabbing me in the back? Now, when it's all over, when he's lost everything, now he wants to talk? I didn't reply right away. I didn't need to scream, didn't need to vent. I had already won. Instead, I typed something simple. Final. Me. No need. I've already said everything I needed to. Have a good life, Alex. Then I hit send. And without a second thought, I blocked his number, for good.